Hello and welcome to yet another video. I know I haven't made any videos where I'm sitting in front of a camera like this, talking to you guys for a while now. In fact, I've been very busy doing different photography shoots here and there, as well as filmmaking shoots. In fact, I just came back from a doctorate graduation ceremony shoot that I had earlier, and I'm back in Amsterdam and soon will be leaving for Southeast Asia for another photography shoot as well. And yeah, but I've been wanting to make this video for a while now, and as you know that on my channel I've been posting a lot of thought videos about different old entry-level cameras that I have here. These are just some of them that I have in Amsterdam, and in this video I would like to actually talk with you guys why I actually recommend getting this kind of camera. Well, not this particular camera, but just this kind of secondhand entry-level cameras that you can get nowadays for a really low price. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So these entry-level cameras that I have here, whether it's 400D, 550D, 350D, 300D, so on and so forth. I've also talked about the D5000 and some other cameras before in my channel. You can actually go through my channel, and if you are interested in any of those cameras, you can always look into those videos, and there are actually a lot of details about those cameras in those videos as well that I've put out in the past, so feel free to check it out. So yeah, old entry-level budget DSLRs. These cameras are still very accessible today, simply because a lot of people are really selling these cameras like crazy because they were really popular back when they first came out, and to be honest, they still really deliver a lot of good results. They may not have the best dynamic range in the world, they don't have the best image quality in the world, they don't really have the best in anything in the world. That being said, they still do allow you to actually have full control of every single photography aspect that you generally would need for photography. And I find that it's still a really important feature to have. Well, it's not really a feature because it is a camera, and it's something that a lot of cameras should have at this point, especially a DSLR. But my point being is, if you're like stepping into photography for the first time, or if you're professional already and you have nothing else better to do and would like to experiment with older vintage look, then these cameras are still cameras that you still can really find for a really low amount of money, just to dip your toes into, and yeah, just experiment with what they can really deliver, because a lot of these cameras do give you like a more vintage digital look. When you say vintage look, you usually think about like old style SLRs, things like that, where you shoot film and it gives you the film look. But we also must not forget that DSLRs have different iterations every time it gets released. So the camera manufacturers always adjust the color signs a little bit, tweak the sensors like this, and it's just the way it captures images, captures light, signals, things like that. They're all very different, and older cameras will give you a much more unique kind of look compared to more modern digital cameras. And if you're really into kind of vintage digital look, which to some people it might sound a little bit insane, but there are a lot of people who are actually interested in like the older digital look as well, because some of them think it's more cozy, some of them gives more of like kind of like a faded vibe versus more contrasty or a little bit more glossy kind of finishing on modern digital look. So yeah, there's always that room to play with. And I would say that that would probably be the first point why you should consider these cameras, is because, well, it allows you the full control and it gives you a different kind of unique look that modern cameras cannot really do. Of course, you can always tweak them, but it's a different feeling when you have to tweak them versus when it actually comes right out of the camera. And even like cameras from back then, there are certain cameras that are known to give like unique kind of look that you can get, and that is something really special in digital SLRs, and it's something that you can definitely explore into. And of course, before I dive deeper down into the list, I would also just like to mention, as I mentioned earlier, these are really old cameras. They don't have the best spec in the world, but they will get the job done, and if used correctly, they will still deliver really amazing results. So yeah, the bottom line is, if you're looking to these cameras, the older, entry-level DSLRs from back in the days, just really keep in mind that you will not be getting the latest features. The images will not, look as technically sound as the more modern DSLRs. Just keep that in mind. But otherwise, let's go back into the point. And my third point is, well, because they're really affordable, it means that you can actually kind of don't really care too much about it. If you're like investing into like this kind of 50 euro setup here and you decide to like, okay, this is not really the right look I was looking for, it doesn't have the features I was looking for, you can always resell it back for pretty much the same price that you got it for. And this is something I actually mentioned in another video about like why you should buy secondhand gear, is that the cost of recovery, if you were to sell it back, you actually can recover the cost like almost to the full point. And if you got a lot of accessories with the camera itself, you may be able to actually sell it for even a higher amount of value than when you actually bought the actual setup. And talking about cost, because these cameras are so cheap, should your gear ever break someday, it's actually not a lot to, you know, replace or to look for maybe a model higher that you get extra features, and it will also not cost that much more either. For example, this setup here is 50 euros, body and lens. Well, it also came with other things like new straps and also camera bags, things like that. But anyway, this camera, the 550D, came out so many years after this one, and it's only 80 euros. Well, body only mainly, but only a little bit more. You are already getting a much better screen, much better features. So you have 18 megapixels in here versus 10, and you're getting SD cards. For some reason, a lot of people think that's an update from CF cards. I don't think so, but a lot of people tend to really prefer this. You have more dedicated buttons, you have better autofocusing system, and you have a better video system. Well, the 400D doesn't have any, and maybe it's spend 20 euros extra for just a kit lens or get some other secondhand lens that would fit on here. So yeah, you know, it really depends. It's not really a lot of investment you're really putting into, and should your gear break, again, you can always replace it at the pretty much identical cost. So it's pretty low. So yeah, another nice point I find about these cameras would be using it as an experimental cameras, not in the same way that I mentioned earlier. It's in a different way, in the way that like you can get a lot of vintage lenses or toy lenses to pair up with these cameras, and the resolution will not look too bad, simply because the resolution on this camera, for example, 10 megapixels, 18 megapixels, it's still not as much as, let's say, the more modern cameras, which has 40, 50 megapixels, and those will show more of the flaws of the lenses. Whereas these, it doesn't really emphasize on the flaw of those experimental lenses that you might want to put on, or some vintage glass that you might want to put on. So you can actually still enjoy using those lenses, and you can actually set this camera or any of these cameras elsewhere as like maybe a B cam to capture maybe some time lapse, or yeah, it's a really nice way to kind of get into the experimental side of things, see where the techniques will get you, and also explore other types of perspectives in photography. So I like sometimes to buy those really vintage but also really cheap lenses that are known to have a little bit of flaws here and there, and if I were to mount it on like something like, for example, my EOS R, it's not as fun as using it with this, simply because the resolution on this would really emphasize more of those flaws, making it look more distracting than something like a lower megapixel camera like this, where it would look a little bit more kind of interesting as an experimental shot, or giving that some sort of moody vibe in the images that, you know, otherwise, as I mentioned earlier, the higher resolution DSLRs or cameras may ruin it. So yeah, that is something to consider. And adding on to that point, these cameras are still cameras that will accept more modern or even higher up accessories that you would also usually attach to the more professional cameras. So I can also easily mount these lenses on here, or other professional EX 600 on here as well. So it's a camera that not only that you can experiment with like cheap lenses or cheap accessories with, you can also mount like expensive accessories with it as well, should you maybe use it someday as a backup camera to your professional kit, or if your professional camera kind of got broken down for some reason and this is your backup camera, or if your professional camera is too delicate for certain scenarios. Let's say if you want to shoot in the muddy situation or something, or you feel like, you know, your professional camera can break down at any moment, these cheaper cameras that has enough good quality resolution to it can be kind of that camera that you can just get into, just get the image, and you don't really care if it's going to break down, and then at the end of the day you still have the images in your car just to you know, have the result deliver to your clients or results deliver to whoever it may concern. So yeah, and my one last point, which is a really important one I find, is that these cameras are still really good and capable cameras to use. They will deliver really professional images as well. Yes, for my professional shoot, I tend to shoot with these cameras, but you know, like I can achieve very similar look with these entry-level DSLRs as well. It's just that I use those because they're weather sealed, they're really rugged, they're reliable, they're much faster to use. So it's more of like the extra convenient features that those cameras has, that, you know, the reliability that I need out there to shoot, to be able to deliver to my clients without any failures or as minimal amount of failures as possible. Whereas with these ones, it's a little bit slower, but in terms of the image quality, you can always get the images to look pretty much they're identical to those cameras, and it's something that's really powerful. You can shoot raw, you have full manual control. In the case of 550D, I showed you guys before like some of the videos that I shot for like music video or promotional videos that I shot with this camera back in the days for my professional work, and to be honest, it still like is able to match up nicely together with, you know, more modern cameras, assuming if you can color grade it a little bit, you know, nicely as well. So there are a lot of learning curves to these even older cameras, and don't feel bad about, you know, investing in them, simply because they are nice tools to really explore what you can do, not only with the gear but also with yourself. And you know, for starting into photography or filmmaking, before you spend 600 or 700 euros into a new kit or a new entry-level kit setup, things like that, you might want to consider looking back at some of the older DSLRs. Doesn't have to be from Canon, as I mentioned earlier. It can be from any other brands, and just really see if photography or filmmaking is really right for you and what kind of look do you like. And also take the opportunity to see if what features you might want in a future camera, things like that, and just to learn more about yourself before really spending a lot of money and diving right deep into it. So yeah, whew. That was like the shortest video I've ever done for this channel, I think, in terms of like me sitting in front of the camera like this, talking to you guys about cameras. So yeah, I hope you can actually get something away from this video. I know it's only a few points, and some of the points you might already know, and some of the points might be new to you guys. If you're actually also into like collecting older cameras like I am, and also having fun, feel free to just like share your thoughts, your opinion, your experience, stories, what have you, in the comment section down below. If you need a free photography guidebook, it's also linked down in the description below. It's absolutely for free, no need to submit your email address. I will not bombard you with any newsletter nonsense, so just click and download, only if you're really interested in it though. Yeah, otherwise I have not much else to add. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe, have fun shooting. Till next time, bye for now.